Hi guys,
right.
This is my
Fantastic.
audio overdub for
So-
episode 8. So I'm going to clap.
I always have troubles deciding if I want to
every
do
time
a
I'm doing
voice
one
or
of
not.
those sound bites that you gave me. So without further ado, let's
It was
Sure,
St.
let's-
Patrick's Day. Let's do Irish.
Oh, I cannot do an Irish accent. Such a hard accent. No. No way. Nah. Well, hello and welcome to Fayfinders, a Dungeons and Dragons podcast navigating listeners into the vague and supernatural. My name is Kai and I will be your dungeon master today. And with me, I have the amazing Amancio,
Why, hello there.
the joyous Jupiter,
Greetings.
the kind Caitlin,
Good day.
and the stupendous Sam.
Crikey, well, hello there.
Now, with that said, let's see what we can remember. All right, I have no idea what the fuck that was, but it works.
It sounded sort of Australian to me.
Oh, well, either way, it works. We'll leave it. I might change it. Who knows? Okay, so quick recap of last episode. So you guys having teleported to Killdeer Port, you were able to secure a ship. During that ship ride, a bunch of pirates attacked, in which you helped the crew fend off said pirates and continued to sail the rest of the way in smooth sailings to Zeltara Key Port on Veshtirg Island. From there, it was Nisha's brother who recognized her and was able to lead you guys to her hometown, Zaham. There, you guys found out that while technically you all had been marked by each individual gods, or at least their symbols, each symbol was specifically placed on you by the saint, otherwise known as Eos. From there, Nisha got to take her trial and was able to secure her fragment with a little bit of help from her long-past sister. And that is where we ended you. So, Nisha, you are still sitting atop that mountain and the flaming phoenix sword in your hand. Your sister has disappeared, but you can still kind of feel her presence around you regardless that she's not physically there. And for a moment, you kind of just sit and watch as you take in the familiar scent of the ocean, the familiar sounds as the waves crash against the bottom of the mountain far below, and it echoes upwards. And you close your eyes And when you open them, you're sitting back in that tent with the Grand Matron still sitting in front of you. Well, how did it go?
Successful. All thanks to Deirdre.
Well, that is certainly interesting to hear. Will that mean that you are staying with us then?
Not at this time. I have something important to do with my friends before I return.
I cannot say I understand, but if that is your choice.
It is. There's too much on the line for me to stay behind and turn a blind eye.
And you see her she just kind of watches you, not necessarily like with a judgmental look or like with disdain, just more curiosity. And for a moment, she doesn't say anything. And then she gets up. And then she goes towards the door and motions for you to follow her.
Nisha takes her time standing, kind of rolls her shoulders to get back into herself, and then follows the Grand Matron.
Okay. So the rest of you were kind of all sitting outside. Did you stay around the hut, or did you guys like wander off?
I think Solene would have stayed pretty close and maybe like looked around to see if there was like any vendors or anything like interesting being sold, but just like around the area where the hut was still in sight.
Nia would have stayed close as well, just to make sure that Nisha was okay.
Okay, sounds good. So as you guys are kind of like looking around, you do eventually notice that both the Grand Matron and Nisha have exited the hut, and the Grand Matron kind of looks at the three of you and nods her head for you to follow her as well.
Farron would have stayed pretty close by as well.
Nod and follow.
Follow along.
Okay. So, she of course, takes her sweet time. She's an old lady and she's seen better days, but she's still a little spry compared to how old she looks. And she takes you up this hill towards the mountainside, a little bit further up from where the main town is kind of situated, back towards where you start seeing caves that have been carved into the mountainside here at the bottom or the base. And there's a few of them that you guys pass by as you walk. You do see, a few that have been kind of like makeshifted into homes. You see a few that have been makeshift into like quarries where there are workers, kind of going away at their day, trying to mine whatever kind of resources that these mountains produce. And she takes you to probably, if you're counting, about the 5th cave entrance down from where you kind of start seeing these caves being manufactured. And there are actually 2 core guards that stand at attention at this cave entrance. And for a moment, they seemed extremely tense as you guys approach, and then realized who was approaching and instantly stepped aside. They don't say anything, and neither does the Grand Matron as she leads you in. From here, you are basically plunged into darkness. There is no natural light that reaches into this cave here. And for a moment, you kind of consider, like, do we have to feel our way down? And then there's a soft blue glow that starts to emit from the rocks, almost like a natural bioluminescence. And it's not bright, but it's definitely enough to light your way as she leads you down this long, narrow tunnel. And it seems probably about 15 minutes of walking before you come upon this large opening. And in here, it is very well lit. There are a mixture of actual lit pyres, like torches, as well as magical light that is secluded within this cave here. And all around the walls are shelves upon shelves of books.
Have you been harboring a forbidden library here?
I wouldn't call it forbidden. Whatever happened on the mainland has no bearing on what we do here.
Would it perhaps be okay if I looked around at some of the volumes?
Well, that would be up to our new Grand Matron. And she looks to you, Nisha.
Upon hearing that, Nisha stands a little bit taller and a little bit straighter. And then she looks towards Solene. Please, feel free to browse through, see if there's any information that can help our cause.
Thank you so much. And I give like a little half curtsy nod.
Okay. So the Grand Matron herself, she just kind of nods towards you, Nisha, and gives you a lopsided smile. I will return, but if you need anything, just let the two at the front know, and they will fetch it for you. But in the meantime, you are welcome to stay here and find what you may have lost.
Thank you for your time and understanding.
Of course, child. Just keep in mind that not all will be as understanding.
I do respect that, but eventually they will have to look for me this way they look to you. It will take time.
It will. But for now, you worry about your other mission. And she gives you a nod, and the rest of you, she nods as well, and then heads off down the tunnel back towards the entrance, leaving you guys alone to a very rare sight.
Nisha, Grand Matron, that's incredible. Congratulations. That must be Forgive me for maybe overstepping them, but then there must be a huge burden to have thrown on you so all of a sudden.
I couldn't agree with you more. I feel like I need to age 80 years before I can bear that title.
Well, you know what they say, what is it, youth before age, or beauty before age, or something? You know, you'll be the youngest Grand Matron people have seen, and they might be a little shocked by that, but I'm sure they'll come around in time. You're pretty easy to follow.
Thank you, Farron.
While I'm looking at all the books, can I specifically see if I can find any reference to the snake symbol and Baltog the Demon King, and even the if there's anything on the Night Stalker?
Sure. Roll an investigation check.
I'd love to. What's my investigation? Okay. I know it.
I would also like to get in on that.
Well, I got a 4, so...
Okay. Nisha, go ahead and roll an investigation check.
I'm not doing much better at a 12.
Okay. Well, it's better than a 4.
Yep.
Farron, not really knowing what in particular to look for, is just going to grab like any book, whichever book is in closest proximity.
Okay.
Can I roll for that?
Okay.
All right. That is an 18.
All right. And Nia, are you looking for anything in particular?
Nia's not gonna look for like any specific topic. She's just gonna kind of walk along a shelf, running her hands along the volumes, looking at the titles, and see if anything like seems familiar.
Okay, sure. So go ahead and roll your investigation check.
20.
20. Okay.
Dirty 20.
Sounds good. So, Celine, starting with you since you rolled first, there is so much, way too much. You are so overwhelmed by how much there actually is that you kind of have a bit of a hard time focusing. But you do notice as you're kind of looking around, there are carvings in the stone walls, specifically on the ceiling and any space that is not consumed by shelves of books.
Can I try to focus on those and deduce if they're like spell work carvings, or like if they're like magical runes, or if they're like just art?
So from a quick glance, it does look like art, but
Okay.
I do want you to make a history check.
Okay. And I do know what my history is. Oh, that's better. Okay, 14.
14. Okay. You have definitely seen these carvings before.
Okay.
They are very, very familiar and reminiscent of the carvings in that initial cavern that you all found each other in.
Oh, okay. I'll announce that I know this, or pardon me, sorry. I'll announce that I noticed this once everybody else gets their like turn.
Sure. Sounds good. All right. So Nisha, you are specifically looking for Beltog and the Night Stalker, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you do find a a book about religion, specifically the different types of gods. So kind of quickly flipping through it, You do find reference of course, the goddess Eos. You find reference to Hako, Sa, Varuna, the four main gods that are typically the most sought out, other than Malia, the god of death. It also mentions other gods such as Ayaz, Kalun, and Panjak, who are known as lesser deities. They are set or thought to be secondary gods, like gods that were created by the original gods. And as you're kind of reading through, you also do pick up the name Rarik. And you specifically remember that name because it has been a name that has been mentioned around Farron. But the book isn't too clear on, first of all, where Rarik originated from, who worships him, what he's worshipped for, nor what even happened to him. He kind of just is briefly mentioned and then forgotten. And of course, you do find the name Baltog, otherwise known as the Demon King, and thought to be the god of calamity and disaster. But it wasn't always that way. He had actually been highly renowned for being the creator of the Shadowfell realm, as well as a fair judge and someone who brought swift judgment and justice to those who felt wronged. And it talks about the fact that when Eos created the first mortal being, Baltog wasn't too particularly happy with that. And that is what actually sparked the secondary war between the gods. A war that it did involve mortals on the material plane. And that's kind of all you really can gather from that particular book. Farron, you just grabbed any random book. Okay, so the book that you grabbed is A History of Jatalu. So it talks about specifically the creation. It talks about how darkness was all that there was in the beginning and how light fought its way in, and how that sparked the original war between these two entities. How the light eventually split itself into 4 fragments and the darkness split itself into 2 fragments. It talks about how centuries passed as these 6 beings fought for control over what is now known as the mortal plane, or the current universe. And eventually light triumphed over darkness. But they made a truce. At least the entities did. The entity of light and the entity of darkness. One could not exist without the other. So from there, basically, the fragments were left to essentially create what they saw fit. It was basically something that they were basically given all this power. They were given whatever freedom they saw fit in order to do with what peace was established. And so for a while, they were actually quite content. They created the mortal plane. They created other planes such as the Shadowfell, the Feywilds. But other than whatever kind of vegetation, foliage, things like that inhabited it, there wasn't really life. And that's when Eos created the first mortal being. And that sparked the Secondary War. And from there, those four initial fragments of light created secondary gods, lesser gods, and basically tried to multiply their numbers in order to maintain whatever was established. And as this war was happening, of course, like life itself had begun. So it was going through its motions. These beings that were created by these gods, lesser gods, whoever was the initial creator of these races, demanded that their people actually contribute to this war. And eventually it just got to the point where these creatures had no idea what they were fighting about. And so they abandoned the gods, essentially. They said, no, this is not our fight anymore. You need to sort your shit out, essentially. From there, it talks about how the only way to stop Beltog from destroying the world, destroying life in the world, was to seal him away, because again, there was a truce. The light had to exist with dark, so they could not simply destroy Beltog. So Eos sacrificed herself in order to seal Beltog away in the Fragmented Mountains. From there, it says that Rarick fell. It does not say exactly what his fate was. But basically the rest of the gods just continued on as though as like trying to reclaim whatever kind of followers, worshippers, whatever you want to call them, they could, by helping out the mortals for a short time, to regain that kind of faith. And that is what that book talks about.
Y'all, I found a pretty interesting book here, and Farron sort of calls the rest of them over to this very interesting history tome that he's found, and he sort of leaves through it, and he holds it for everyone to see, and says, "It says in here that as the universe came to be, and light and dark emerged, that one could not exist without the other, and that Baltog represents the darkness here, and the only way to defeat him was by sealing him away temporarily, which was accomplished by Eos sacrificing herself. And it's not really looking good for the whole defeating Baltog thing."
It would seem that way.
Oh, you found a much more in-depth book than I did. I got the Cliff Notes.
Well, if we're taking a moment to stop our researching, if I could direct your attention to the walls and the ceiling, I have discovered that these symbols are the same ones that were in the cave where we first met each other and woke up from, I guess, whatever caused us to lose our memories.
I wonder if there's a book in here that would speak to what those are in reference to.
I think it would be worth looking into.
Okay. And sorry, Nia, what were you looking for again?
I wasn't looking for anything specific. Nia was just kind of walking kind of glancing at the titles and trying to see if anything
Perfect.
jogged a memory.
So as you're kind of walking through, your fingers are kind of brushing against these books. Some of them heavily dusted, some of them quite old and almost falling apart, just or at least weathering by the touch as you're perusing by. And then your fingers hit this one, and this feeling just kind of like comes up from the pit of your stomach, and you instinctively grab it and open it up. And this, it's not even a book, it's a diary as you start to flip through it. It's a diary of someone by the name of Kilia. And Kilia documents basically their travels as like for one of the previous pilgrimage of the saint. And basically it talks about how they knew that the saint would have to be sacrificed in order to reseal Beltog, in order to deal with the Fallen, to deal with the Night Stalker. They knew that it was only a temporary fix. It does not mention anything about the fragmented weapons that you guys are now currently searching for. Whether or not Kalia actually knew about them, you're not 100% able to discertain from her notes and her entries. But it is something that she doesn't actually bring up. And so as you're kind of reading, you get the sense that while the other three chosen knights for the saint that were marked to travel with her knew about the fact that she would have to be sacrificed, she herself did not. And as you're reading through, it mentions that she was the princess. And it mentions that it's always been the princess. And there's notes and speculations about, it's something to do with the blood that runs through the Jalen line. And while a lot of it is heavily speculated, none of it has really any basis, it does start to kind of piece together a few little things. And the last entry, it doesn't go into great detail. It basically says that they are at Newport, or they're technically at Port Killam, because at that point it hadn't burned down and been rebuilt. And they were about to make the trek into the mountains. They were waiting for daylight to avoid the Night Stalker. And in big capital letters is written wings with a question mark. And that's kind of where that ends.
Nia's just kind of like flipping through the diary, recalling the dream that she had, and just really getting more into who can I trust, like, is just feeling very lost.
So, what are you guys doing?
Not wanting to waste her opportunity, Nisha's going to turn her focus back to the bookshelf and specifically look to see if she can find anything regarding the intricate carvings on the walls and ceiling.
And can I look for anything to do with like memory spells, or like if these symbols would like correlate with memory or knowledge?
Sure. Sounds good. I'll get both of you to re-roll since you guys are looking for something different.
For sure.
And then Nia would shelve the book and then I would like to start looking to see if I can find a book about the royal line.
Okay.
I got an 11 because my dice hate me today.
Okay.
16 for a 21.
Oh, nice. Okay. Sounds good. So Soline, you are kind of going through these books. It takes you a while. Like, there's a lot of books here, and all of them are, they either don't have anything on the spine, so you have to kind of pull them out in order to see what's written on the front, if anything, or open up to the first page to kind of get an idea of what the book itself is about. And some of them are storybooks, some of them are history books, some of them are just teachings of specific religions. There's a very wide array of different kind of things here. But eventually you do open up one book, and as you're flipping through it, like, you do get the sense that this particular book may have belonged to a sorcerer or a wizard, somebody who took notes about magical items and magical spells. And so you are kind of flipping through it. You do see that there are definitely spells that can affect memory. Nothing that completely wipes out memory per se. It's more so like certain periods of time that these magical spells or items can affect. You'd have to be a very, 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 very powerful person in order to be able to affect more than, maybe a day's worth of memories or something.
Okay.
Okay. And Nisha, you look through the books, and again, you're kind of like having to pull a few out, take a look. You do find one that does talk about glyphs, runes, magical symbols, things like that. But a lot of it you can't actually read.
Oh. Not being able to fully grasp what I'm looking at, I would take the book and spin it around so the spine is facing myself and call attention to the group. Does anyone here read this? She makes a vague gesture at the pages.
I'll go up and peer down at the book and see if I can understand what it says.
Nia will as well.
Farron will also take a look.
Okay. So as you gather around this book that Nisha is holding, Soline, while you do recognize a few symbols, you cannot read a word of it. Farron, you have no idea what's in this book. Sorry, Soline?
Oh, I was gonna ask if I could do like an insight or like something to see like what I can remember about it, like if these symbols are specific to a particular spell or if these like symbols are a different language that I've seen but can't read right now.
So the symbols and glyphs themselves are very similar to some of the ones that you've seen carved around the initial cave you guys woke up in. Some of the symbols that are carved into the walls around this particular cave, but the words itself that like are written in the book, you cannot make out.
Oh, okay, so I just recognize the things, but it's not like a language that I knew and forgot.
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
Nia, as you are looking over this book, you are kind of focusing in on it, and you start to get a little closer to the pages as the symbols and the words start to form into something different, something that you actually can read. And so this particular book talks about mainly about this particular page, at least that it's open on, is going on about how there is a particular like rare occurrence where somebody born of like a sorcerer nature can actually inherit these runes on their body in order to either boost their power or give them special abilities. The runes that are particular to the ones that you've seen within like the caves that are carved around do pertain to the gods, either specifically to Eos or Beltog.
Are the runes like drawn on the page?
Yes, they are.
Do any of them match the runes on our bodies?
No.
I can read it. It's talking about sorcerers and runes that they could tattoo to gain power.
Interesting.
Oh.
Celine, these look like something you would have seen before?
I wish I could remember.
Maybe we might be able to find somebody who who knows. It could be worth keeping in mind.
These symbols do seem familiar to me, but I can't quite place. But I have seen them.
Nia, do you want to flip through the book?
Yes, I was actually just about to ask if Nisha, can I have the book?
Oh, yes, of course. It's of little use to me. I can't read squat.
And Nia takes the book and starts slowly flipping the pages.
Okay.
If you can't read squat, maybe it's worth reading it lying down.
Read lie down is the most optimal way to read.
Precisely, but when you're going for strength, the squat is the best.
Plus, a squat's good for the blood flow, and it lets you lift the book with your legs rather than your back.
Yes. Yes,
Precisely.
very true. Nia, perhaps that'll help with your blood flow and your brain functions as if you do a little squat while you read.
I think I'll stay standing.
Whatever you choose, whatever is most beneficial for you.
Okay. So, Nia, as you kind of flip through this book, each page that you flip to, like, at first, you have no idea what the hell is on this page. Like, it is just garble of runes and shapes and symbols that you've never seen. But as you stare at it and focus, it does start to form and start to make sense. And so the book goes on to talk about basically the old civilization, old Jatalu, old Veshtirg, old Mirdon. You get the sense that this book was written well before the Purge. And even as you're flipping through it, like the pages, you can tell they're pretty delicate and starting to kind of fray away as time eats away at it. So gently, as you flip these pages, you start to get more and more sense that this might be the language of the old people that used to inhabit this place. And so it goes on to talk about how there were always specific not necessarily rituals, but worshipings that were held for specific gods. It talks about how there were how there were different I don't want to say cults, but you get the sense that it was probably a cult. But there was the cult of the Snake Eyes. There was the who followed Baltog. There was the cult of the Wandered Way, which basically followed, or at least tried their best to follow Rarik, whatever was available at the time. There was also ones that were called the Deathbringers, and of course they followed Malia, the goddess of death. And then it also speaks of the Saint Sisters, who you, upon reading that, it sounds familiar. It's like you've heard that name before. You're just not sure where. But it doesn't go into too much details about the runes themselves. It more so kind of gives you the sense that these were just specific symbols that related to certain offerings towards the gods.
That's really interesting that it mentions the cult of Snake Eyes and Baltog, and that there's a symbol of offering for him. I think that would be worth looking into more. Especially because we saw so many snake symbols, well, particularly in that mountain cavern that we woke up in, and elsewhere actually. I can't remember. I think we've seen it other places.
Does the book relay any other information, Nia, or is that where it ends?
It seems to just relay about the religions definitely before the Purge. This book is old.
I wonder if we could take this book, Nisha, and see if we can find anything more about what exactly those offerings were, and if the cult still exists, and perhaps that's part of our mission, is to thwart the cult. They would be trying to resurrect Baltog. Or not really resurrect, but stop us from imprisoning him again.
Fair. I don't foresee an issue as Grand Matron, but just in case, as I'm still a little hazy on what occurs here, we should probably ask my mother. Just to double check.
Whatever you feel most comfortable with.
There's so much information in this room, I'm worried that we'll miss something.
As am I. But perhaps, can I beseech the higher powers to see if I can potentially learn to craft a teleportation station here to come back anytime that we might need to?
You don't know. You'd have to check.
I would love to check.
Okay. Well, there is definitely not a teleportation circle here.
Can I create one?
No.
Okay.
Not one that you would be able to return to.
I see. Well, I guess we'll just have to do the bus station, or not the bus station. I don't know why that came out of my mouth. I guess we'll just have to do the boat anytime we want to come back here. So we'll have to make sure that we do as much as we can and then just hope for the best. Come back when we can.
Probably for the best that we don't linger too long.
Well, I think we might have done as much as we can at this current moment, and perhaps we should start making our way back and continuing our journey. I don't know if we've discovered a time limit on these happenings, but yes, best not to waste any time.
Okay. So are you guys heading back to the main village then?
Nia did want to see if she could find a book on the royal line.
Right. Yes. I will say with the 22 that you got, you actually do not find anything based on there's not really much. There are books that do briefly talk about the previous kings, but there's nothing that specifically mentions in detail about the royal line.
No, family tree,
No.
lineage, graphs.
No.
I'm good then.
Okay. Anybody else?
No, I think that's all we could do.
All right. So, Nisha, are you heading away?
Yeah, Nisha will lead the way out of the cavern back towards the two soldiers and into the heart of the village.
Okay, sounds good. So you guys make your way back. Were you guys going to take that book with you?
Yes.
Yeah, no, Nisha was saying that we should bring it, but then respectfully asked the Grand Matron if it was alright if it left the core people for a time.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Yeah, so you guys head back towards the village. The two guards who are stationed outside, they do watch you guys go, but they don't say anything. They don't, get in your way or whatever. They just kind of especially give you, Nisha, a slight nod. And just continue on about their own business. I'd say at this point, you're probably looking at about late afternoon, between everything that's happened and how long you guys spent looking through all the books. So you do notice that it's gotten a little bit more quiet in the village. Not necessarily that anybody has like gone away. It's just everybody seems to be almost kind of taking a midday siesta. Um, but as you come back into the village, are you specifically seeking out the Grand Matron herself first?
Yeah, I think that would be Nisha's main focus, is to find the Grand Matron, just get that out of the way,
Okay,
and then go from there.
sure. So where are you going specifically? Like, are you going to her place first?
Yeah, head to her place first.
Okay. Um, so you head there. She is actually not in her home. Um, there's actually no one in the home at the moment.
You know what else just sparked in my brain? Is perhaps we should ask about the wood. Why the wood is so special, and if it potentially has any magical properties that could vanquish a uh, grand evil being. I don't know why it's so special, but it sounds like perhaps it's something we should also look into.
You raise a valid point. I just thought it was the rarity of it, but perhaps it does have properties.
I can't imagine them not wanting to utilize it in terms of trade if it's just a rare item that can be regrown and cultivated.
Nisha's gonna take a look around and see if she sees any of the soldier figures around her.
Like in the home or outside? Sorry.
Sorry, just outside the home.
Just outside. Okay. So you take a quick look around. You immediately do not see any kind of soldier figures. There are like a few people running around, but there is one particular male that does catch your eye. Short cropped silver white hair, same kind of markings as you. And very tall, very lanky. He looks probably maybe mid 30s from your first kind of glance. But as you kind of are looking around, he turns. Nisha! I knew you were here. And he comes over to you and kind of clasps your shoulders. Why didn't you come say hi?
Long and complicated story, I'm afraid. Short version, I don't remember much.
Wait, what? You don't remember much? How?
That I would also like to know. Long and the short of it, I woke up in a cavern with my compatriots, and she gestures to the rest of the party, unsure of not only my name, but our people, our culture, our history, all of it wiped clean, blank slate. I've been filling in the pieces as we've come along, but it's been arduous, and I'm afraid there are still a lot of holes. Yourself included, I'm afraid.
You see him kind of hesitate, and he looks at you as though like you're joking, right? And then he's like, "Oh wait, she's not joking." And he kind of chuckles to himself. Well, I swear this is odd. I'm Kellic. I'm one of your older brothers.
Oh, dear Kellic, I'm terribly sorry.
I'm sorry about that bump on your head. That's a weird one to deal with, I gotta admit. But come, why don't you come say hi to everyone else? And he kind of leads you uh, a little bit of ways, not too far, but to another slightly larger hut. And inside, you do see the grand matron, your mother, sitting there, sitting next to also an older gentleman, same, light blue skin, silvery hair that started to kind of go a little bit more gray and dull than that bright kind of white that you're used to. And there's also Declan, who you do recognize, and he kind of gives you a wave as you walk in. And there's another gentleman that is sitting amongst the group as well. And he kind of looks up at you and scowls. Right, so this is Declan. Also older brother. That's Rianne, another older brother. And, well, I think you've met Mother, and then Father, right? Okay, so one big happy family again, yeah?
Yeah. Sorry for being away and forgetting that you all exist. In much better news, I took my rights this morning, whether Mother had said so or not. I did it with Deirdre's help, and Hako favored me with their mark. And now we're here.
You see the gentleman that Kellic had pointed out as Rianne get up and storm out without a word. And everyone kind of just watches him go. And Kellic puts a hand on your shoulder and it's just like, don't worry about him. He'll be fine.
It's a lot, not only seeing me, but dealing with all of the emotions that go along with seeing me. I understand.
Yeah, I gotta admit, there's a lot of that. That's for sure. I don't know. You just left.
To be fair, with the murmurings around the village, could you really blame me? Look within your heart. You can't look me in the eye and tell me you didn't listen to it and somewhat feel that way.
He hesitates and he kind of looks at you and he almost looks like he's searching for something. Whether it be an answer, whether it be, the actual truth, whether or not he wants to even say anything. And in that pause, Declan stands up and he's like, right, well, that's all great. I'm so glad that it worked out for you. Why don't... Are you staying? Do you need to go? What's going on here?
We wanted to ask Grand Matron if it were respectful to remove a tome from the library with intention to return it, as it might aid the journey we now find ourselves on. I, not being able to remember, don't want to do anything disrespectful. So I came to seek guidance in this situation.
The Grand Matron looks at you and then looks between everyone else and kind of, you see her, it looks like she sighs. She doesn't, there's no audible sigh, but you can see the shoulders kind of slump a little bit. As long as it is returned.
It will return when I return.
And then hopefully the both of you return swiftly.
I would like that as well.
Now, where is it that you guys feel you must go next?
I do believe, if memory of past conversations serves me well, that our next point of interest as far as reclaiming memories is in the capital city, back on the mainland.
She nods and looks to your father next to her and kind of gives him a small pat on the shoulder before getting to her feet. Do you intend to leave now or later?
To be honest, I hadn't consulted my friends about that. We came to find you to do the respectful thing first. Though there's no particular timeline, I don't foresee us staying too long.
Right. Well, and she looks over at you, Solene. You're a magical one, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
All right. Well, come with me. And she starts to head like further back into the hut, kind of behind these intricately woven curtains. And
I will follow her and do a little nod back at my companions and sort of be like, I'll be back soon, and then walk with her.
all right, as she leads you back, she doesn't stop to hold the curtain or the draperies, but she does kind of walk through into this small little back room. And back here, it's very, like, it's a huge stark difference between all the rock and rubble and all the dry kind of more harsher landscape that you're used to. Here is full of greenery. You recognize like herbs and different kinds of plants that are used in spells, specifically, even potentially like potions or what's the word I'm looking for? Oh my gosh, words.
Spells, potions, pouches, satchels, sachet,
No.
whatever the pouch things are.
No, frig.
Healing?
Yes. Thank you. Healing.
No worries.
That's
so
the
like
one.
poultices. Oh, that was the word.
Yes.
Poultice.
Thank you. That's
Got
the
it.
one I was looking for. Anyways, and she kind of leans down and pulls a thin book. Like, it's not really so much a book as more like a folder with some papers tucked into it. And she flips it open and pulls out one and hands it to you. And as you look over this piece of paper, you instantly recognize the teleportation circle that is drawn onto this paper.
Is this meant to lead us back here?
No, this particular one will take you to the capital city. There is no teleportation circles here, so you would have to return by sea if you intend to.
Well, we will be returning. At least to give back the book, and then I'm not sure if we'll be splitting our separate ways by the end of this, but at least Nisha will be returning.
Well, thank you. It's certainly going to make our journey a little bit easier on the legs and well, easier on the stomach, since we won't have to worry about getting seasick at all out there.
A solid 5 days is well of travel, and if we're trying to deal with all this very quickly, then it will be most important for us to be quick. So thank you very much for your kindness and your hospitality.
And she kind of gives you a small smile. Thank you for taking care of Nisha.
Of course. As one of our companions and as well as a friend, it is our responsibility, and I wouldn't have it any other way than to be there for her. I had a question, if you don't mind me perhaps reaching a bit too far. Could I ask what the trees are for, or why they're so precious? We heard tales of this particular wood that was native to this land and is quite sought after, and I wanted to know if it was just a rarity and special to your people, or if it was magical and used for other purposes.
Oh, or the blue tear tree, yes. No, it was said long ago that the tree sprouted from a tear of Varuna, but whether or not it has any bearing is another story. However, it is typically used when trying to contain any kind of magical item, as it tends to mask that magical aura.
That sounds quite useful, I'm sure. Again, at the great risk of overreaching and extending even more kindness than you already have, do you think that it would be possible for us to take just a small twig? We are under a great mission of dealing with some very great forces, and I think being able to mask certain magical properties would be of the utmost importance, especially with the dangers that we're facing. If the answer is no, though, of course, with utter respect, you have the right to decline. But I couldn't help but ask.
Well, if you're looking to mask a magical item, you will need more than just a twig. The item itself needs to be contained entirely within the wood, so most make boxes out of it. If it is a small item, I have such a box that I could lend.
That would be lovely. We're going to be facing quite the dangers, and I think the best we set ourselves up for success is the best chance that we have of getting this over with, and then we can all go back to our families and regain our memories and have our lives back. So we'll be sending this back with the book as well when Nisha comes home after.
I understand. And I must say I am impressed that somebody has finally decided to seek out the fragments rather than continue sacrificing innocent girls. So, whatever I can do to help, if it's within my power. And she leans down, and from under one of the large plants that is kind of tucked into the corner, she pulls out a small box made of a vibrant blue wood. And she opens it up and kind of pulls something out from it and tucks it into her waistband and then hands it to you. It will be fine. It's not something that needs to be kept hidden for much longer.
We thank you so much for this. And of course, our end goal is absolutely not to kill or sacrifice anyone. We're trying to actively work against repeating those mistakes, but this'll be great for help.
Baron, kind of, as if tipping his hat, just says, "Thank you kindly, ma'am."
I'm going to look at Farron with the widest eyes and, like, death glare.
Despite that comment, she starts laughing. Well, at least somebody's got a good sense of humor.
Mother, if I could be so bold, do you have any advice or whispered stories that could aid us in this?
She looks to you and kind of thinks for a moment. Regardless of whether or not the fragments work, he must be resealed. And she looks to Nia with very, very sad eyes. Unfortunately, one girl is not worth the rest of the world.
Nia just holds her gaze.
Well, we'll do our best to make sure that that's not necessary. And I'm gonna go and, like, squeeze Nia's hand, just, like, subtly at the side.
Nia tenses just a little bit.
And if I feel that, I'll let go really quick and just kind of give sad eyes.
Make no mistake. I do sincerely hope that the fragments work.
Well, thank you very much for everything that you have done for us. Perhaps if it's a good time, and yes, it's late afternoon, but perhaps we should make our way to the capital now and just get situated and then start fresh in the morning after a good night camping or in a tavern?
It sounds like a good night to me. We roll up to a tavern, grab a couple drinks, pitch our tent, right in the heart of the capital. We can camp out on the cobblestones, wait for the guard to come by, kick us out.
Well, I was thinking in the forest outskirts for the camping. If we're going to be in the city, we might as well stay at a tavern.
Right. Sorry, nothing like the great outdoors, nothing like getting a big, fresh gulp of forest air. Reminds me of home, at least as much as I still remember.
I'm gonna look at the Grand Matron.
This will actually take you to not necessarily the capital itself, but the wizarding school. I believe they have called it the Aosim Academy.
Can you spell that for me really quick, please?
Yes, it is EOSIM.
Thank you.
The AOSIM Academy. Yes.
Well, that sounds like it would be somewhere where I would need to stop, anyways. If I'm from the capital as well, and that's probably where I went to school or taught at. As high sorceress of the kingdom.
Sounds like a pretty fair assumption at this point.
I'm sure they'll have plenty of questions as to where the High Sorceress went, and who knows, maybe they'll roll out the red carpet for us. Or maybe not.
Yes, and I'm sure that's going to be something that we'll have to deal with. I am composed and ready as ever, with the highest form of propriety and grace. I am ready. No nerves, nothing like that, no anxieties. Just ready.
Celine, my dear, the more you talk, the less true that sounds.
I'm aware.
Well, that's step one.
But it's going to help me nonetheless, for now. And then when we get there, perhaps it will be true. All right.
All of you have lost your memories, correct?
Unfortunately.
Well, that would make sense. You, my dear, and she's looking directly at you, Soline. You are not of the capital.
Oh. Do you know me? Or have heard tales of my high sorcerousness?
I have heard. I do not know you, but I do know of your kind, and they tend to reside in the desert.
I see. And again, with the memory loss, is there any major deserts in this continent? Or back on the mainland continent?
On the mainland, below the capital city, there is the Terexcue Desert, yes.
That would make sense if I was born there and then came up to the capital to study and then become a high sorceress. Perhaps that's where I will need to go for my fragment. It seems like that's the trend, going back to one's home.
Perhaps, but it more so seems like the fragments tend to, well, I can't say for certain, but I think it tends to force whoever seeks to claim it to acknowledge who they really are.
That would also make sense.
All right, so what are you guys doing? Are you guys gonna stick around? Are you guys gonna teleport out?
Soline will turn over to Nisha and just say, would you like to spend one more night with your family, or do you think you're ready to move on to the next stage of our journey?
As selfish as I wish I could be in this moment, I think it would be advantageous to make the most of our daylight and make our way to the Osam Academy and secure lodgings to move on to our next step.
I give a really like tight nod and a like sympathetic smile, um, and turn towards the matron one more time and say, "Thank you again so much for all of the help that you have bestowed, and it will be repaid once we save the world."
At that, Nisha kind of just shakes her head a little bit. But truly, matron, father, Declan, everyone, I thank you for your time and your patience. This whole affair, seeing me, aiding us, couldn't have been easy. So thank you, genuinely. I look forward to continuing to mend and repair this relationship in future.
Could you
What?
point us to. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, Declan just kind of pipes up. Why you gotta be so serious? Seriously, not like you.
I feel that. And she like kind of lets her shoulders slump a little bit. It's just a lot of very serious subjects on a near daily basis. It's near stifling.
Look, you'll always be our little sister. You'll always be our little shit. So, come back and cause hell.
With you by my side, how could I not?
Perfect. I look forward to it. And he kind of elbows Kalek beside him. Yeah, same.
Thank you, Kellic, for bringing me here. And though they stormed off, just let Rian know that I'll be back. And if they continue to avoid me, I'm going to tie them to a post and recite every book in that library until they choose to be kind.
They both let out like a super hearty laugh. That's Arnisha. I'll let him know.
Thank you.
Now get before we keep you here.
On that
Thank you.
note, actually, would you be able to point us to the nearest beach or earth that is the least or the most malleable so that I can draw this symbol on the ground?
Declan and Kalek look at each other. And Declan nods and he's like, yeah, sure. I can take you there. Follow me. And
Thank you so much.
he heads out and starts making his way down towards the ocean. And now that you kind of get like a better look at it, despite how much this ocean kind of shifts and storms and the waves roll over each other, it is a brilliant royal blue. Like it is deep and it is dark, but it is also very beautiful to look at in its vibrancy and color.
Can
And
sorry.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Can I really quick roll an insight check to see if this was the beach from my my dream before we woke up under the mountain?
You don't need to roll. It is not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it just gave me similar vibes, and I was like, wait a second, premonition?
No, this is definitely not the
Okay.
beach. But But anyways, he doesn't quite lead you quite to the beach edge. Nisha, you're familiar with how rocky the beaches can be here. But there is like a little portion of sand between where kind of the where the grass ends, and then it almost like is like as though it's been eaten away a little bit, and then there's a little bit of sand and then rocks just all the way into the water. But the sanded area is big enough for you to draw a teleportation circle.
Beautiful. Is there any twigs around me?
Yeah, there's quite a few dead twigs that are scattered amongst, like along the beach, in the sand, on the shore.
Phenomenal. I pick one up and I get to work.
Okay, sounds good. So you start drawing out this teleportation circle. Is there anything you guys are doing within the 10 minutes that this is going to take?
Nisha is going to turn to Declan. So, as a parting gift to me, of course, I would love to know your favorite shit memory of me, just to give me something to hold on to when the darkness sets in.
My favorite memory, huh? I'd have to say back when you were still a wee lad, we taught, I guess. You'd always follow around your sister quite a bit. You were attached to Deidre at the hip, that's for sure. Never let her out of your sight. And there was one day where where the other boys were giving you some trouble. And rather than run and hide, you just dropped trow and peed on them.
Nisha's just like, you can actually, it's the first time you've ever seen her completely like unsundered and not holding herself together. Her jaw is just like hanging open. Wait, I what? You can't be serious, Declan. You're pulling my leg, are you not?
No, not at all. It was the funniest thing to see. Never seen you so pissed. Literally. Oh God. Yes,
Well, I can't promise that sort of behavior from now on, but I also won't deny that it won't ever happen again. And she kind of gives him a funny face.
Good to hear. Like I said, you were always a little shit. Never let anyone boss you around, that's for sure.
I don't intend to start now either. Hold down the fort while I'm gone.
Will do. And he kind of hesitates for a moment, and then he gives you a hug, and then makes a gesture with his hands, and walks back up to the village.
Well, you now all know my deepest, most intimate secrets.
Solene is too busy, but she kind of like giggles to herself and smiles subtly, like, "Oh, I didn't hear that. Don't worry, I'm busy." But definitely heard it and is like laughing to herself.
From what we've seen of you so far, I thought you were a very serious person, but based on this new information, perhaps thinking you might not have been.
I am wholeheartedly agreeing. I can't help but feel perhaps it's all the serious situations we find ourselves in.
All right. So, Celine, you finish your teleportation circle.
I do.
Yeah. And as you finish that last stroke, the magic glows and the lines kind of solidify and alight in this bright, kind of vibrant green glow. And you guys have 6 seconds.
I kind of like gesture after you all very quickly.
Nisha runs straight for it.
As does Nia.
Farron is right behind Nia, just running right into the teleportation circle.
And then I'll pop in last.
All right. So, that familiar feeling of kind of being yanked by your core off the ground washes over you again. And for a moment, you think you're going to be sick. And then suddenly your feet hit ground and you kind of stagger a little bit. But you look up and realize that you're not necessarily in, like, you're not in a library, you're not in like a room. Well, you are in a room, but it's very bare. It's literally just a brick room with a wooden door, and that's it.
Is there any symbols in the walls or on the floor?
Nothing other than the residual teleportation circle that you had drawn in order to connect to this particular location.
Mm-hmm. All right, then I'm just gonna go open the door and look out and see what's in the hallway.
Okay, so you open the door and you are greeted by stairs that spiral downward.
Well, a teleportation circle got us right to the top floor. Celine, I think maybe you should take the lead on this one, seeing as you're the high sorceress and all. And we can just hang back as your sort of people in waiting.
I would concur with your assessment, and I shall lead the way. As if I know what I'm doing, I say under my breath. And I'll descend the stairs.
Okay, so you guys make your way down the stairs. It is quite a bit of flights of stairs. You get the sense that you might be in a tower of the academy. But you guys get down, and as you are kind of getting to that last flight of stairs that spirals down, you hear the door slam open, and there's echoes of gentlemen, like they're rushing. They're like they're talking very quickly, and it's hard to kind of make out what they're saying. But you get the sense that they're trying to find out who the heck just entered their teleportation circle as they come up the stairs. And and these two older looking gentlemen, one of them balding with a long gray salt and pepper beard, and the other more stockier, definitely shorter, probably halfling dwarf size maybe, and he kind of looks at you and is just like, Lady Milliot, you're back. Oh, we weren't expecting you. I'm so sorry.
Absolutely no problem at all. Yes, this was an impromptu, unscheduled return, but I have returned, and I have brought the princess with me, as per usual. She is my normal accompaniment, and we've found two other companions along the journey. Yes, I would like for us to go to a sitting room and be brought some tea, if you will, please and thank you.
The two kind of look between themselves with a concerned look. And then they look back at Nia and then at you, Soline. Right. Yes, sorry. Of course. We can definitely set that up. Of course, yes. And they kind of give each other another glance and then this way.
Thank you so much.
And they start to descend the stairs and step out through the door of this tower. And as you step out, you are greeted by a very luscious green and vibrantly built garden. There are like cobble walkways that have been kind of purposely situated through the flower beds here, but everywhere you look is either brilliant yellows or pinks or purples, blues, and then different types of trees that kind of line this garden to kind of give it a little bit of privacy. And they take you through one of the paths here that goes by some deep purple and yellow flowers that is similar to what you would consider an iris. And they start heading towards the main building, the large kind of, it looks like a stone castle, but smaller. But it is still the largest building that you can kind of see within the vicinity. And while they don't say anything, they do keep looking at each other as though silently conversing.
Can I knock into their brains and say, to just both of them at the same time if possible, if you have something to say, you might as well say it to our faces.
They stop and look back. Lady Milliot, we meant no disrespect at all. We were just surprised that you would come here with the princess.
Well, this is where we need to be at current moment, and I would appreciate that you use your open words when discussing the four of us.
May I ask, why would you be surprised?
They, again, kind of look at each other and then look back at you. We weren't... And the other one kind of, the taller gentleman, the one that's balding, speaks up. We assumed that you were dead.
Right. Well, that plan hasn't panned out the way it was anticipated, so we need to reconvene and start the process again slightly differently, and we'll be working towards the same goal, of course. But there were some hiccups in the execution.
I'm sure. And I am also sure that the king would love to hear all of this.
And he shall, when I deem it necessary for him to hear. Do I make myself clear?
Hearing Soline's tone, Nisha's gonna like stand up and kind of like roll her shoulders and then just like look down the end of her nose at them.
Okay. Soline, make an intimidation check with advantage.
Beautiful. I don't know what my intimidation is.
Okay. So your intimidation is +5.
Oh, 19, 14 plus 5.
All right. Uh, the gentleman, the two gentlemen there, they kind of you see them kind of shy away a little bit as Nisha rolls her shoulders. Right. Well, I wouldn't keep him waiting too long.
No, and we don't intend to, but I am the High Sorceress, and I will deem when it is necessary for us to convene with the king. And it is not either of your place to dictate that decision.
Right. Of course. And they continue on.
And you see Soline kind of like, okay, thanks, Nisha. And then like straighten up and like put this like air back on her of like, oh, this is dangerous place. We gotta be so like put together. Oh, actually, really quick, I want to pop into everybody's minds and just be like, this doesn't feel like the kind of location that we should let on that we don't remember anything. Like, this feels like play the court game territory, and that's what I'm doing right now.
Okay. So, as you guys continue on, um, you do see the gentleman kind of this, they occasionally like speak to each other openly, although it's not about anything particular. More so just discussing like the school curriculum that is being taught or upcoming plans as to you know when the next students are going to be admitted, kind of things like that. And um, after probably about a 5-minute walk, you do you are led through this large stone castle that's very very intricately decorated. A lot of it is decorated in royal colors of like reds and blues and greens, those deep royals. And um, they bring you to a like a parlor room almost. It's got like benches set up that are situated but on either side of a low table. There's, these beautiful, like, royal blue placemats that are placed along it. And you do see cups of fine china that have been set out. And while there is not necessarily tea yet, it looks like the place has been prepared for you guys in the time that it has taken for you to get from the tower to this building and through the building to this room. Please, have a seat.
Thank you. And I'm gonna sit in the most like high-backed, proper posture, leg crossed, ladylike position, head high, keeping this like air of like authority about myself.
And following suit, Nisha's not going to sit, but she's going to go stand at Soline's left hand side and then just stand there like at attention.
Okay.
Nia's just kind of looking around the room.
Okay. So, the two gentlemen sit opposite of you, Solene, and kind of look at Nisha and Farron, who are standing on either side of you as though bodyguards.
I love this. Y'all are killing it.
Yeah. So, tell us then, Lady Milliette, what is it that you intend to do if not save the world?
Oh, we very much still intend to save the world. We're just going about it in a different way. The sacrifice, unfortunately, didn't work. Well, fortunately, unfortunately, didn't work. So we are attempting a alternative method.
They kind of look at you and then at Nia and then back to you. How didn't it work?
It just simply was not a feasible option at the time of the determined ritual. So we were not able to complete it as prepared, and those details are not quite important. What is important is that we have discovered another method and have already been taking steps to fulfill this method.
And pray tell, what exactly are those steps?
That is on a need-to-know basis and will be informed to you when you need to know.
Right.
But again, as your high sorceress, you can trust that I have this under control and it is being dealt with. We 100% still plan to save the world. It's just not as traditionally done. And who are we to not learn to grow with opportunity and change when change is the best option?
I suppose. So then that brings me to my next question. Do pray tell, when you intend to invoke this new plan by the next equinox in 3 weeks' time?
So you're asking when before?
Yes, because the Demon King must be sealed before it, or the bonds will loosen, and we all will perish.
Well, I can assure you that it will be done before the next equinox. We have already enacted half of the new plan's requirements, and we only need to do 2 more small ventures before we can complete this new plan. And then the Demon King will be sealed and we will all be saved for another 1,000 years.
You yourselves pointed out that we have nearly 3 weeks left, and yet you choose to waste our time with pointless questions.
The taller man kind of folds his hands and leans forward. I'm just trying to understand. So please correct me if I am wrong. You have been gone and traveling for the last 3 months, and you've only just decided with 3 weeks left that plan's no good, you're going to start a different one, and you're only halfway through. And you expect me us, he gestures to the gentleman beside him, to accept the fact that you've wasted all this time and have only gotten halfway.
Who are you to think that you have the authority to be questioning us and undermining my authority to complete this ritual, as was my responsibility, when we are and have not wasted, but have perfected the most optimal process of banishing the Demon King, and potentially, most likely, if everything goes according to this proper plan, is going to be vanquished entirely. Now tell me, which one do you think is a better option?
Lady Milliot, with all due respect, you may be high sorceress, but we are still the king's advisors. So as far as we're concerned, we're on the same playing field here. Now, you might have had a change of heart or a premonition, whatever you want to call it, in the 3 months that you have been gone. But we're looking at the fact that there has only ever been one solution, and that solution has not been done.
Then I would question your wisdom in only being able to see what one path may lead. And if you are truly the advisors to the king, then I would think for you to advise on looking at the options that may best suit the world, rather than deciding that one person's life doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme when it doesn't have to be ended.
Nia, who's been like standing kind of over on the edge of this quietly, finally basically being talked about like as if she's not in the room, speaks up and says, as it's my fate that we're speaking about, trust that if the plan that we are currently attempting does not work, I will do what is necessary to save us all. That's all you need to know. And she just holds eye contact with, like, between the two men.
Now I think it would be best for you two to go and fetch that tea that was promised.
I think so. It seems like we have a lot to discuss.
Indeed.
And the shorter gentleman, the more than likely halfling from what you can tell by stature and features, gets up and walks out. And that's where we're going to end tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in to Campaign Amnesia. And remember, new episodes air every third Sunday of the month at noon. And be sure to check out our other adventures by searching Fayfinders wherever you tune into your podcasts. Until next time.